I just wanted to make this video in the hopes that this will be helpful to someone else. On May 12th, May 12th, my brother and I were assaulted and mugged in Quito, Ecuador around 7 p.m. And I'll tell you the exact spot where we were mugged. So this is the central district here. This is Plaza Santo Domingo. This was the hotel we were staying at, Hotel Aquilmia, which is actually a very nice hotel. And this is the Central Historic District, which is considered relatively safe. And there is a little road right here with a bunch of restaurants and shops, just 2 blocks from the hotel. And the safe way to get to this is this way, we realized in retrospect. We tried to go this way and walk down these stairs and come down this way. That was a mistake. This area is poorly lit, and the attack occurred right here on Venezuela Street, around 7 p.m. at night. So it was not very late at night. So it turns out Quito is probably not safe to walk around at night unless you're in a large group, or perhaps if you're close to the Grand Plaza. I think this area, Garcia Moreno in Venezuela, this area is relatively safe. And then somewhere around here, it becomes more safe. And then the farther you go this way, the less safe it becomes. And I think everyone recommends that you do not go enter into this area at nighttime. Now, this was our last day in Quito, and we were kind of lulled into a false sense of security. I had actually gone that morning on a run around 7 a.m. I went to a run to the top of the hill to see the Virgin of Panaceo, and I ran exactly through the spot where we were mugged. I ran this way, I came through here, and then I went up. I went up the path here to here, and I went through this entire area. It seemed very safe. There were like lots of kids walking to school, grandmothers walking their dogs. Yeah, looked very safe. And I think that's kind of the situation in a lot of places. You'll see children and the locals walking around, and I think they're not attacked because they're poor and there's nothing for them to steal. But as tourists, you definitely look like you have something. Okay, I'll go through the details of what happened, but I wanted to talk a little bit first about the issues with getting stuff stolen. Mainly, I had my wallet and my phone stolen. The wallet had some credit cards, which are easily canceled, uh, some IDs, which are fairly easily replaced. Luckily, I didn't have my passport with me. I did find out later that if you lose your passport, you can go to the embassy and get emergency travel documents so you can travel back home. But luckily, I didn't have to do that. But losing your phone is a major, major hassle. So, as you know, if you have your phone, most people have all their emails and finance apps and everything onto their phone. And if they can unlock your phone, they have full access to those things. Now, and also, many of the things require two-factor authentication, and most two-factor authentication goes through some kind of authentication app, which is on your phone, or also a text to your phone. So therefore, when you lose your phone, you cannot log into your accounts because you can no longer perform two-factor authentication. Luckily, I had a computer at home that was logged into my Google account, which is kind of my main account, and I could, through that account, go and try to find my device. And I basically asked them to factory reset the device if it hooked up to the internet or to a network. Now, as it turns out, the people who stole the phone from us, they turned off the phone fairly rapidly after stealing it. I saw the phone moving a couple of blocks away from the location where we were mugged. Um, and then they turned it off, obviously knowing that phones could be tracked. I don't know if they ever reconnected to a network, and if they did, hopefully my phone was wiped, um, because obviously there's a ton of sensitive information on everyone's phones. What I did not realize is that Samsung, I have a Samsung phone, has a mode where you can put it into lost mode, and if you do that, if you do that fast enough, it prevents them from logging off your device, um, turning off the phone, which may delay them a little bit. Now they can still stop you from tracking them by like pulling out the SIM card, which is something you can do physically. Um, and so that's probably what they would do, but this would be a little bit better. And so that might have helped a little bit if people didn't have a SIM card tool or did not realize that you could pull out a SIM card. They wouldn't be able to turn off the phone once you put it into this lost mode. Um, okay, so in retrospect, what I should do is I should have multiple devices set up. I should have had like my brother's device or my parents' device or my wife's device or some family member's device all hooked into the same Samsung account so that all of our phones are on the same account so that we can all lock each other's phones if one of them gets lost. And you should have a backup two-factor authentication number with a secondary phone if possible. Um, and so those are the two major things. The first thing I did after I realized the phone was lost and I reported it to the police is I basically canceled my credit cards and then I called T-Mobile and got my SIM card deactivated. That way they can't use the two-factor authentication to get text messages to put in the numbers. And then two, I set it to wipe my phone. And then yeah, basically those are the things I did. Wipe your phone, turn off your SIM, cancel your credit cards. And then hopefully that protects your financial assets and sensitive information. It's been over 2 weeks now, and I have not noticed any issues with any of my bank accounts. So I think we're okay from that standpoint. All right. So if you want to hang on and find out the details, I will tell you about the details. Now, I don't want to dissuade people from going to Quito. Quito is a beautiful city, and all the people we met there were very kind, very hospitable, wonderful people. Just it's just not safe to walk around at night in small groups. Now, what may have been another factor is my brother has arthritis and kind of walks with a limp, so we may have been perceived as an easier target. And we are on the older side, and I'm not a very big guy. I'm about 5'10", 5'11", 150, 160 pounds. So I think if you were a larger, more imposing person, you'd be less targeted. But anyways, couple of these are some pictures from my morning run up to see the Virgin of Panaceo, and it is beautiful. It's very nice. The scenery from up there is good. There were no people, very few people that early in the morning, but I felt pretty safe, and no one approached me. Now, I had taken a picture of this area, and this is the area just on the other side of the street of where we got mugged later on that evening. And these are the streets. It's just a beautiful city. Um, and so we had gotten done doing a walking tour of the city, had a great time, and we felt very safe. My parents were tired, so they went to the hotel, and we were going to go pick up a little dinner to bring back to the hotel to eat. And this is exactly the spot right here where we were attacked, right here. Um, and so all the advice is that, especially when you're walking around in a somewhat dangerous area, you should be aware of your surroundings, pay attention to who's around you, look behind you, make eye contact with people, and then you don't look like you're an easy target. We were doing none of those things. Um, we were looking at our phones. We had just purchased an alpaca scarf from a street vendor. We were looking at the alpaca scarf. We were not looking around behind us. These two guys were probably following us for several minutes. So
All right,
see here, I'm gonna.
this is the place where it happened.
There were people sitting right here on these seats when it happened. We saw a bunch of young people, teenagers sitting there, and some older people. And we were walking down this street. We were coming down this street, and then right here we were attacked. So I think they were following us. And then what happened was Okay, I'm going to pause the video here. What happened was they were following us. Then one person grabbed my brother's phone and bag and wrestled him to the ground, and um, they were kind of fighting, and I wasn't sure what was happening. And then immediately I saw a guy with a large kitchen knife going towards my brother, and this was very surreal and kind of in slow motion. I kicked him and pushed him away from my brother. He came towards me, and and then I kicked him again, and then he went one direction, and I fell the other direction. I fell off the curb into the street, and so luckily there was not a car going by or hit by a car. And then you can see here how low this fence is. It's actually like below waist level, kind of mid thigh level on me. And if I had stumbled back on this, I could have easily gone over and fallen about 20 feet, probably to my death. Um, then he came at me with a knife. I picked him again. I fell down. He went to my brother again, and at this point, I thought he was probably stabbing my brother. And I got up and I pulled him off my brother. We both fell down, and then um, I don't remember what happened next, but then they were gone basically. And then I went over to my brother. He was covered in blood. I thought he had been stabbed. Luckily, he was not. The bleeding was mostly from a bloody nose. They had punched each other, and he had some bruises on his arm, a hematoma on his arm from falling down, and some cuts on his hands. Glasses were broken. Um, and so, yeah, then they kind of ran off in this direction, or maybe the other street. I'm not entirely sure. After that happened, we got up and wanted to get out of there. Then that's when I noticed my phone was and my wallet were missing. Um, people started approaching us. I thought we were going to get attacked again. However, those people had seen the altercation, and they were asking if we were okay. They were like, "Está bien?" And they were asking us if they were okay, and we said we were fine, and we walked away from there. I noticed my phone was missing. I could track it. It was several blocks away. For a split second, I thought I should go after them, but then I came to my senses. I was like, what are you going to do? They have a knife, and I'm not going to go, you know, into, chasing after them. That's just crazy. If you look here, you see my brother's blood is still on the sidewalk here. That's the blood splatter from my brother. That's where he was fighting the other guy. So the lucky thing about this is these guys easily could have killed us. They were following behind us. They could have easily stabbed us in the back. We would not have known what hit us. When I was kicking this guy, he could have easily, cut my leg or cut me, but he did not. I realized in retrospect he was going after my brother with a knife to cut the straps of his bag. There were cut marks on my brother's bag. So these guys, they definitely wanted to steal our stuff, and they were okay with hurting us, but they weren't. They did not want to seriously hurt us, or kill us, because if they wanted to, they easily could have. So luckily, none of us were seriously hurt. I lost my phone. The lessons learned here are: get two-factor authentication set up on a separate device, have multiple devices with you that are logged into your major account so that you can access your accounts and turn and have access with two-factor authentication, because getting two-factor authentication back up was very difficult. I had to wait till I came back home and got a new SIM card from T-Mobile, and then set that up again. And then when you're walking around at night, yes, be aware of your surroundings. Look behind you. Do not be distracted. Um, and that would make you probably less of a target. So again, here's other sides. You see these guys sitting here. There were people here. There were people talking on these steps and here, and we were walking down from this direction, and this is where the altercation happened. Another shot. Yeah, there were people along this bench here. There was probably 10, 15 people around, but I think it happened in like 20, 30 seconds, and it was over before they could react. And so, all right. Well, I hope that was helpful to someone. Quito is somewhat dangerous at night. I would not walk around in small groups of 1 or 2 or 3. If you're in a big group of 20 people, that's probably fine. I doubt that you would be attacked in a group that big. But I still wouldn't walk around in sketchy areas. If you stay towards the Grand Plaza, it's probably pretty safe. There were lots of street vendors and things like that. You might get pickpocketed, but highly unlikely to be assaulted. Um, and then yeah, get your two-factor authentication squared up with multiple devices so that you have access to your accounts. I just had no access to any of my accounts until I got a new SIM card 3 or 4 days later when I got so and then if I don't know how it works in the iOS space, but if you have a Samsung phone, getting the lost phone to prevent them from shutting it down is a little bit better than the factory reset option, which is what I did. I factory reset. I asked my phone to be factory reset on the Android Find My Device page. Okay. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to answer the questions and help you guys out. All right. Thanks for watching.